Because when you are approaching a relationship from a place of lack, what ends up happening is your partner becomes an outward manifestation of all the inadequacies you have, because you don't have other sources of fulfillment, you don't have other hobbies, you don't have other interests, you don't have other people you're close to. Therefore, you latch onto this person, and regardless of how much they may be disappointing you or manipulating you or breadcrumbing you or stonewalling you, you will continue to stay around this person because you do not have other things to fall back on. Moreover, and more importantly, you don't have other people who can ground you through that process.
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Hi to all my entrepreneurs who are driven and single. If you are tired of swiping through profiles of people who just don't get it, try millionairematch.com. With over 5 million users, you are destined to meet someone who will challenge you intellectually, match your ambition, and love you for you. Join now at millionairematch.com. Having read 40 to 50 books on dating psychology, our guest today monetized this knowledge through a YouTube channel, Ace Attraction, offering relationship support and advice. He has millions of views but fell out of love with repeating himself. His advice was temporarily helpful but didn't address the root of the problem, who and why they chose the person they were having issues with. And after moving back into tech sales and selling $5.5 million in AI solutions since 2023, he sought a way to combine his love for dating psychology and skill set in using AI to solve everyday issues, leading to the creation of Faith. And he's here today to transform your love life with Faith. So ladies and gentlemen, help me welcoming the founder of Faith, an AI dating app launching in September, Rakesh Naidu. Welcome to the show, Rakesh.
Thank you, Joyan. You almost summarized my life better than I would on a whim, so congratulations. Yeah, that was a really good introduction. It summarized some pretty key points, and it's good to be here with you.
You're so welcome, and I'm excited to be with you as well to talk about, well, the first question that I have is to go all the way back to before we talk about your app, and which is really exciting. I want to hear all about that. But what initially sparked your interest in dating psychology?
So I think, like with most things that people learn in that kind of depth, I think sometimes it stems from challenges. And I would say I had a lot of adversity with it when I was younger. I didn't grow up necessarily being the top pick of a bunch in anyone's dating pool. And I guess a way that I made up for it is on the psychological side. So I thought, actually, where possible, let me try to gain as much theoretical knowledge as I can so I can compete with people I normally wouldn't be able to. Moreover, that actually also stemmed from going through quite a few heartbreaks. It's nothing that no one else has gone through. But actually, I thought there must be a way to proactively prevent this stuff from happening, right? There might be signs you should be looking out for, red flags. But if you go more retroactively, what are the green flags you should be looking out for, which mean that you're not going to eventually have someone who causes you pain? So I started just delving into this topic massively. I'd say about 5 years ago is when I really started diving into it at a deep level. And yeah, it's been very paramount to a lot of the stuff that I've done thereafter, actually, be it Ace Attraction or, of course, the dating app now.
Yeah, so because you have read 40 to 50 books, right, on dating psychology, what I'm just curious, like what are some of the key principles or insights? Because dating is something that my listeners are curious about as well. You know, they always want to learn more about dating, love, relationship, how do they attract their perfect partner, right? So can you share some key principles that you still remember up to this day that influence your approach to dating and relationship?
No, of course. So I think the most fundamental principle that everyone always needs to bear in mind, and it sounds very cliche to say, and a lot of your viewers, podcast listeners, tend to be above average IQ, so they probably would know this stuff anyway. But It's having other sources of fulfillment, most predominantly, because when you are approaching a relationship from a place of lack, what ends up happening is your partner becomes an outward manifestation of all the inadequacies you have, because you don't have other sources of fulfillment, you don't have other hobbies, you don't have other interests, you don't have other people you're close to. Therefore, you latch onto this person, and regardless of how much they may be disappointing you or manipulating you or breadcrumbing you or stonewalling you, you will continue to stay around this person because you do not have other things to fall back on. Moreover, and more importantly, you don't have other people who can ground you through that process. So number one, the most fundamental thing is maintain another group of people that you trust, who you're close through your relationship, and also have multiple sources of hobbies and fulfillments, because they will ground you through any adversity you go through in your relationship. I'd say the second principle is expectations. While it's okay to have a sheet that you're ticking off in terms of qualities you're looking for from someone, I'd say expectations are okay when you're looking for qualities in a person, but expectations aren't good when you're looking for actions from a person, because someone could tick all the green boxes in your book, but actually they might not behave in the certain way you're expecting. And when you have expectations all the time, you're going to be disappointed a lot. And I coached hundreds of people when I ran Ace Attraction. I think a huge problem people were having is they just had expectations that weren't being met. So actually, let's dial back the expectations and just be happy that you've got someone with certain qualities who's got the long-term capability to be with you. And let's just make sure the fundamentals are down, because the rest you can build on with the person.
Yeah, so why did you stop coaching people on their relationship? Because I look at your YouTube channels, you have tons of views, but you stopped producing videos for a couple of years, right? I would say. So why did you stop? Because I know, like I mentioned in the bio, but I want to hear it from you. Why did you stop?
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, just crude about it, it just doesn't pay very well. My tech sales job is significantly more lucrative than, even there's YouTubers who have millions of views every video, and tech sales can be more lucrative than that. So number one, money's always motivated me, right? And at the start of Ace Attraction, I really did have good intentions and I wanted to help people get my knowledge out. But then I started just repeating myself constantly. I'd be on coaching sessions with people multiple times a day. I'd be essentially saying the same thing, but just tailoring it to their situation. And at some point, it felt disingenuous, because if these people really wanted to, they could just go to my YouTube channel, listen to the videos that kind of relate to the situation they're in, and apply it to their situation. And I think that's true for a lot of people who do like business coaching or any form of like guru coaching on the internet. You can actually deem a lot of free value from their content and apply it to your situation, as opposed to paying for a course or one-to-one sessions. So that's the main reason. It was the disingenuous side of it, repeating myself side of it, and it just wasn't very lucrative. I can only charge, let's say, a maximum 100 or 150 an hour to stay competitive with my competition. Whereas in tech sales, you have a good year, you can make 250,000, 300,000 like easily. So it just didn't really compete on multiple different levels. And finally, actually, just one more thing. Yourself as a podcaster, and I know you upload YouTube videos, can probably resonate with this. You're always competing with people who know a lot more about you than in how to engage people in the first 10 seconds of a video. What thumbnails should you upload? What colors do you need to engage people in? How do you keep people's minds stimulated through the whole video with visual aspects or audio? It's a science, and it's not a science I was A, very good at, or B, I had the time to study, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, right? I mean, to be honest, I'm also a coach. I'm also helping people to start a podcast. That's what my business is all about. So I can totally relate to everything you said. And thank you so much for being honest. Yeah, because to be honest, like coaching isn't really lucrative as compared to, like say, doing sales for tech or even AI. So the other question I have before we move on to your app is that in one of your videos that I watch, you talk about, I'm not a magician. You don't come to me for your problems, and I'm gonna solve. I thought that is really funny and really, straight to the point. So what were some of the while we are still a dating coach, what were some of the common issues or patterns that you notice amongst your clients, your listeners seeking advice?
Yeah, so let's just call a spade, right? The kind of people who are watching dating advice videos by nature are not the kind of people that are just floating with an abundance of options, have all their sources of fulfillment correct, are the most healthy-minded people in dating. They're just not. And that's me included, because I used to watch this stuff too. You watch these videos when there is a problem that is being manifested through how people are treating you, or maybe your lack of ability to keep people, etc., etc. So all of them had a few things in common. I'd say number one, they all really struggled to walk away from someone when someone was taking advantage of them. A lot of people had someone who was disrespecting them or overstepping their boundaries. Some were even cheating on them. I've even seen some that were getting hit or physically abused, and they just didn't have the willpower to walk away. Some scenarios were more understandable than others, whereby they had kids or they were married or they lived with the person, which makes a lot more sense why you're a bit stickier to that person. It's harder to leave. But number one, they just weren't willing and able to walk away. And I think that's something that is a very pivotal part of how you view your relationship. You can love someone, you can really care about them, but if they overstep certain boundaries you have and you're willing and able to walk away, there's a certain air of I'd say stability it actually gives you, because you could survive without this person, and therefore you're more firm to your boundaries, right? And everyone should have boundaries, because if you don't have boundaries, where do you draw the line when things are not going well?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing. The reason why I want to ask all these questions is because, as you know, I'm sure, as a coach, if you don't heal yourself, if you don't work on yourself, if you don't improve yourself, you're always gonna be, no matter how many apps you get on, you're always gonna be attracting the same type of person, right? Over and over again, repeating the same type of, relationship, basically having the same relationship with different person, right? So that's why I want to let people know that, hey, it's not about dating app. Yes, maybe your app is gonna change that forever. We're gonna talk about that, but I need people to understand, hey, you need to work on yourself. You need to understand yourself. It's about self-awareness, right? So now let's talk about your app, because I think that is really, it's really exciting what you have created. But before we talk about that, what then led you from tech doing sales to creating the dating app again, something that you are passionate about?
So, having come from a background of being insanely interested into dating psychology, studying it, making videos, coaching people on it, to then always having worked in tech sales throughout that period, well, tech in general, but the last half a decade more tech sales, I sat down in September of last year and I was thinking to myself, I've got a decent career, I'm doing okay for myself. I've got everything I want in life, but there's just something more. There's something more I know that I want to go out and get. There's something more I know I'm able to go get, and it's just not doing it for me. So I sat down and I was actually with a friend, and I was speaking to them about it, and I put into a list all the different things that I was good at. And actually, it just made complete sense. If I think I understand tech and I'm good at selling it and I can sell it in the millions, and if I think I understand dating psychology better than most of the YouTube dating coaches today, despite the fact I still don't do it, combining the two, tech and dating, is a dating app. And yeah, from that day onwards, I've just been obsessed with the idea. And there's days I would do literally 18 to 20 hours of work per day just to make sure I'm progressing it across all fronts as much as possible. And I do, of course, have a team behind me. We've got a chief product officer, chief technical officer, chief marketing officer, marketing manager, user acquisitions, development people. We've got loads of people in the background who help with that vision every day.
Yeah, I saw you have a huge team behind the company.
Not about huge, but yeah, I mean, I guess the workload they manage is huge. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I love the social media posts. You have quite a lot of contents going on already for the launch. So okay, let's talk about app. How does we all know that there's so many apps in the market today, Tinder, Bumble, right? You name it, you have it. How does Fate, right, the app, address the shortcomings you identify in the existing dating apps out there?
Okay, so to address the shortcomings of the dating apps, first let's look at the psychology behind the people who use these apps, because something is not a shortcoming unless there is a psychological problem that needs to be addressed. So 72% of people today that were asked feel that dating apps don't facilitate interactions effectively that help with meaningful conversations. 68% of users experience swipe fatigue, And decision fatigue, which is when you constantly, every 2 seconds, swipe, you experience decision fatigue, and it's not a very nice feeling. 54% of online daters are looking for long-term relationships. And 40% of people preferred having more meaningful interactions when they tried it with AI. So now let's look at this. So if there is a problem we need to address with people not feeling like they're having meaningful interactions, there's too much choices to make, how do we minimize the choices, but also give people the best possible outcomes? And the way you do that is by taking, where possible, the choice away from them. Because people today are not swiping for the right reasons on these dating apps, right? They look at superficial visual aspects and they swipe on that immediately. And it's evident by the rates of people who are unhappy with dating apps and the amount of relationships that actually last, that come out of it, that there is a problem here that needs to be addressed. Hinge's CEO was asked on an interview with Stephen Bartlett, what is the future of dating apps? And if you ask a lot of people, Hinge is the app that people think is more meaningful. It's delivering more interesting people, and it's not just about hookup culture. And he said the future of dating apps is by delivering a matchmaking model, whereby people tell you about themselves, they tell you what they're looking for, they tell you what they're interested in, and you deliver matchmaking to them. You know, gone are the days where you have to call different taxi companies up and find a taxi, or call a Chinese up and then a pizza place up. We're now moving to a model where you have all your favorite things, your interests, onto an app, and it shows you things that are relevant to you, like every social media app, like Uber, like your food delivery apps. And dating is not going to be any different in the future. So if I didn't move to a matchmaking model soon, someone else would. But the good thing about me doing it is my intentions are pure here. I would genuinely rather have 20% less people on my app because they met someone within 3 or 4 months than have an extra 20% of people who are just using it longer because it gives me more revenue. I have enough money in my life. I'm happy. I'm in abundance. I just want to deliver something meaningful that impacts people and that has long-term change, where I can then go around and help everyone I love to live a better life for myself. So I'm here for the right reasons. I understand the technology I'm delivering, and I think it is 100% going to deliver meaningful outcomes should it pan out how I expect it to.
I really love your vision, and you mentioned something really interesting, which is something that I have not thought of before. You know, your goal is not to have people be on the app like forever, because the goal of getting on dating app is to find someone, right? So you can delete the app and go have a, work on your relationship, right? It's not to be on the app forever. So I think that's really beautiful, right? That you have that vision as well for your users. So I know your apps also have some really interesting features like games and things like that, and jokers. So talk to us about that.
Of course, yeah. And just before I get onto that, actually, I wanted to just address something important you said. So, even if someone was a really selfishly minded business person and they said, I want as many people on my dating app forever, as long as possible, because then I'm getting more subscription revenue from them. Actually, if they use their brain cells a bit, they'd realize that if people are having a good experience on the app and they're meeting people quickly, they will refer your app to their friends and family. And 90% of your user base should be coming from word of mouth if you're doing things correctly. So even if you were selfishly minded, it should be in your best interest as a dating app owner. This is just a message to anyone who might listen to it, who is one. It should always be in your best interest to put your users and their ability to find someone as quick as possible first. Now to answer your question around some of the cool features. So aside from us giving people on the app matches based on what we know they find attractive physically, personality-wise, the challenges they have, once you have your 6 matches, there's a multitude of different things you can do with those people. So you can play games, you can do voice calls, you can do video calls. We have a game called Fate Roulette, where you can essentially go on an anonymous voice call with someone who's compatible with you, but you can't see their face or their profile. After 10 minutes of speaking to them, if you like them, you can pick to see their profile, but only if you swap them for someone you've already got matched. But if you pick this person and you swap them for someone you're matched with, but they don't pick you back, you lose both people. So it's like a fun in-app game where we because we take the choice away from the user, this game gives the choice back to the user. You can now get rid of as many people you're matched with for these strangers before you see their profile as you want. But if they didn't like you back and you're not paying enough attention to the dynamics of the conversation, you lose both people, just like real life would be, right? And we also have some other cool stuff. So in today's dating world, you never get told why someone ghosted you or stopped talking to you. Very rarely do you get that kind of feedback. And no app today is collecting, well, maybe they're collecting it, but no app today is providing reasons to you as to why people are not talking to you anymore or disqualifying you. For us on the app, we have to collect a reason why someone has stopped talking to you before they can disqualify you. And because we're collecting that data, we provide it in an anonymized format to our users on a weekly basis, so they can use that to self-develop and learn how to better present themselves in the dating world, because it can be quite difficult for a lot of people, right? So we're trying to help people to self-develop, which is something that no one else does. Yeah. The last thing that we do is we're the first dating app on the planet that will have generative AI included. Generative AI is basically ChatGPT. And you may be thinking, okay, well, how is ChatGPT or Bard going to be helpful in a dating app? Very simply, you would ask Fate a question by voice. Let's say, I've matched Joyan. I'm not really sure what to say to her. Can you tell me something we both have in common? That voice goes to ChatGPT. ChatGPT goes to the server, gets both of our data, contextualizes it, understands what I've asked for, provides a response in text that then goes back to voice, and Fate can speak back to me and say, I understand that you're looking for something to say to Joyan. This is something you both have in common. Maybe you should talk about this. And you can have a real voice conversation with Fate, but the front end is ChatGPT and the back end is your data and the other user's data. So we are first to market with this functionality, and it's dangerous mentioning it publicly, but I just don't think these other dating app founders actually understand AI as well as I do, because I live and breathe in this space.
Well, that is really, really cool. And you have like a dating coach, right, by your side, telling you how to improve. Why do they ghost you, right? It's like you, again, what you have been doing. Maybe something that's, in the future that you can come back and even help these people, right, to improve their dating life. But the other question that I have is, you talk about AI, you are truly passionate about AI and also dating and psychology. It's a question that I have, when I was doing my research, how can AI contribute? Because we know with AI nowadays, right, with technology nowadays, and even just that you mentioned earlier, you can even ask ChatGPT, what do I say to Joanne, because I don't know what to say to her. But imagine if you're at a bar, right, or you just met someone that you are interested in, and you don't know what to talk to her. Are you going to like use ChatGPT to like talk to that person in real life? I doubt so, right? That would be so weird.
No, of course. So I think what we're trying to do is, I think there's a lot of people who would be very compatible, but because of the overload of they're overloaded with options on dating apps. So there's actually a lot of people who you would have been very compatible with, but you never actually got to speak to them, because from a girl's point of view, maybe you were spammed with too many messages, or from a guy's point of view, maybe you got ignored by this person, or you just were a little bit less attractive than another person. So what we're able to do is, virtually and digitally, we're giving people the best possible tools to maximize any kind of compatibility or connection they have. When they eventually meet in person, of course, let it be authentic, let it be genuine. And actually, if people just manage to have met someone like this in person before using the app and they're happy with them, great, that's amazing. But that's not the problem I'm trying to address. The problem I'm trying to address is that 30% of people are using dating apps today in some capacity in the younger demographic, right? Even more probably. And of those people using it, there are several problems in A, how they're using it, B, how they feel when they're using it, and C, the outcomes they get when they use it. So I'm addressing those problems. If you want to go out and meet someone and speak authentically to them and find love, kudos to you, because actually that's probably the best way you should be going about things.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have anything that you really want to talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you?
No, actually, so I think we've kind of covered most of it, to be honest. And yeah, the app is there to promote meaningful connections, and we're there to take all that decision making, take all those boring choices, take all those superficial swiping away from people. And I get it's scary, right? This AI now understands about your dating choices and preferences. But if I'm just going to be completely honest, There is AI out there that knows your search history and what you like to eat and whose social media profiles you go on a lot, and they're using it for bad reasons. They're selling it to advertisers to get money off so that your ads are now, the ads you see are more tailored. This is going to potentially find you a life partner, which I could say is the single most important decision you will ever make in your life. So why not use technology to help better make that decision? Because there's one thing AI can do better than humans, and it's take millions of data points, contextualize it, understand it, and provide meaningful outcomes. So that's what I'm looking to do here.
Thank you so much for sharing so generously with our listeners today. But this is not the end. We always end with our final 5 rapid fire questions. Every question has to be answered in 1 word or 1 sentence maximum. Normally, I'll ask all my guests the same question, but I have slightly different question for you.
Sure.
Because of your background.
Go for it.
The first question is, what is the best dating advice you have ever received?
Have other sources of fulfillment.
What is the worst dating advice you have ever received?
Put everything into your relationship and don't have anything else that you care about.
I love that. If you could live your life all over again, what would you do differently?
Nothing.
I love how fast your answers are. What is something you're trying to learn or curious about right now?
I'm trying to learn more about AI. I think I could be a bit more fluent in it, given I'm going to own an AI dating app. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last question is, if you have 5 minutes and the whole world is listening to you, what would you say?
I would say to people that I came from a background where, I didn't go to college, I didn't go to university. I didn't have any specific leg up in society than anyone else did. I'm not trying to say I grew up in poverty, but I certainly wasn't someone who had more opportunities than the average person. And I think even where I'm at today is testament to the fact that belief can genuinely get you anywhere. I know that most of the time people say this, they're usually multimillionaires or billionaires, but I'm saying this to you as someone who is in a position that a lot of people would want to be in, career-wise and financially. And you absolutely, through self-belief, regardless of your educational background, regardless of how hard you had it, can get to anywhere you want to be despite the disbelievers. You just need to put in the daily time, and you need to, more importantly, actually believe yourself that you can achieve something. Because I always believed that, despite all the criticism, despite all the doubt I had by not going to college and university, I absolutely knew exactly where I was going to be. And I'm only at the start of my journey. And I've always outdone my own expectations, which is something I'm happy to say.
Well, that's very inspiring. I wish I would have the chance to ask you about your backstory, how where you come from, but maybe another time.
Okay. Nothing overly impoverished. It's just, it wasn't. It was definitely below average in terms of what was available to me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I love you remind me of this quote. One of my favorite quotes is, I appreciate everything because I come from nothing. You just reminded me of that quote.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell my people where they can find you. If they want to connect with you personally, do you have a social media page for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to connect with me personally, my Instagram username is Rax, but it's R for Romeo, double A for Alpha, double K for Kilo, and double Z for Zebra. So RAA double K double Z. And my Instagram for the dating app is Fate Dating UK.
And if they want to download the app, okay, tell us about the launch. When is it going to be launched?
Yeah, so we're launching in September in the UK, specifically London, but we are most definitely going to be expanding to places like America, Australia, New Zealand, in the next year or so, depending on how well the launch goes in the UK. And then in the next 2 to 3 years, I can see us expanding into Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking countries once our AI language model understands those languages more and we've trained it enough.
That is interesting. Yeah, I can't wait for the day to come. All right, thank you so much again for coming. All right, guys, go follow Rakesh. Thank him for coming to our show today and join the wait list. I'm going to put all the links in the show note below. So make sure you visit the show note and get all the links and follow him and check out all the amazing things that he is doing. If you have any question, you can just send me a message or you can just comment below and we'll get back to you. And remember to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you every other episode. Show up, the world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening. I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye, Rakesh.
Thank you. Thanks, Joyan. Appreciate it.
Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag findjoyjoyan_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.